just going to first list out all of the steps for solving an equation. So the first thing, and this is going to be like, these steps are all going to apply for like problems that are super long and you do all of these in. You're not going to do all of these steps for every problem, okay? But if you have it, the first thing that you're going to do is distribute. And we're going to review like all of these when we get to them. So we'll review what distribute means and all that, so don't stress out. And then the second thing you'll do after that, if you have it, is combine like terms. And then something important, so something like gets confusing, is this step and the next step. So when we're talking about combine like terms for solving equations, we are specifically talking about terms that are on the same side of the equal sign, okay? So I'm gonna add a little note here. Same side of the equal sign. So those two steps are just your simplify steps. You're not solving it. So this right here. So you're not going to do any opposites or anything like that for those two steps. Okay, that is just, think about it as like getting the problem ready to be solved. All right, and then after that, you start solving. So if applicable, you're going to move variables to the left. It doesn't have to be the left side. You just want to move all the variables to the same side. We're going to call it the left side just to keep it the same every time. But if you are fine with moving them to the right side, like you know how to do either side, then like feel free, okay? But we're just going to do it to the left side always. All right, and then step 4, you're going to undo the addition and subtraction. And then last step, undo the multiplication and division. So those 3 steps those are your solve steps. So when you're doing those 3 steps, that's when you're going to do the inverse, which we'll talk about what that is in a second. So how we're going to do this is we are starting basically with problems that you only have to do either step 4 or step 5, okay, not both. Then we're going to do problems where you have to do both step 4 and step 5, and then we're just going to keep like adding in like steps to the point where then you have problems that you're going to do all of the steps with, okay? So 1.1. So these are just going to be one-step equations. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is what do we mean by do the inverse. So what is the inverse? Okay, so the inverse is basically just like the opposite operation. So the inverse of addition would be what? Huh? Subtraction, yep. And then what about multiplication? Mm-hmm. So you want to kind of think about it as like you have a variable. You don't know what the variable is. That's what we're trying to figure out. But somebody went in and they did something to your variable. They added something to it. They subtracted something from it, multiplied it by something, whatever it is. And it's our job to now go in and reverse that. Okay? So if we have an addition one, so let's say we have x plus 8 equals 12. So we started with x. Somebody went to the x and they added 8 to it. And we need to now like undo what they did. So how could I undo adding 8? Subtracting 8. So we're going to subtract the 8 because what is positive 8 and negative 8 when you add them together? 8 minus 8. 0, right? So then the x is by itself because the 0 is just 0. So now we have x equals, and what's 12 minus 8? 4, yep. And if you want to check that, just put the 4 in. So 4 plus 8 should equal to 12, okay? So let's do one where there's subtraction. Y minus 3 equals 14. So somebody subtracted 3 from the y, and we need to undo that. So how would I undo that?
Add 3 to 14.
Add 3, or, okay. So you get y equals what? Y equals what? And also, guys, I'm less concerned with whether or not you know how to like do this math, and more concerned with whether or not you know what step you're supposed to do. So you'll have calculators, use them if you're not super confident in this ability, but like don't get the problem wrong because you didn't add right. Like let the calculator take care of that part. I want to make sure you know how to do the steps, okay? So if you need to get a calculator out or grab one, do that. All right, okay, let's do that one. Okay, so what operation is happening between the -4 and the x? Multiplication, right? So this one is one that I see mistakes on, and I get why people are doing this. You see the -4 and you're thinking opposite, so you want to do +4. So remember, we want to do the opposite of the operation, not the opposite of the sign. So meaning, what's the opposite of multiplication? Division. Yep, so we're going to divide by the -4. Because what is -4 divided by -4? Like, what's anything divided by itself? 1, right? So -4 divided by -4 is 1, and 1x is the same thing as just x, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we're trying to accomplish, is just get the x alone. So we get x equals what? -6, yep. Okay. We're good? Question? Guys. Does someone have a question? We have a ton of time, so. We're good?
Yeah, we're good.
We sure?
If you put a line, does that mean dividing?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and yes. Which we're going to go over on this next one. Yeah, so division, specifically, you're never going to see like a division sign with an equation. So what division is going to look like is a fraction. So like on this next one, which is the same, it's going to look like this. So whenever you have a fraction like that, know that that's division. So that's why on this one, to do division, we did like a fraction. So here, what's the opposite of dividing by 3? Multiplying by 3. So we're going to multiply by 3 on both sides. Again, because what's 3 divided by 3 here? 1, so 1y is just y, which is what we're trying to accomplish. So what's 2 times 3 on that side? 6. Yep. Okay, so those are like the 4 basic ones, okay? Do we have any questions on those before we continue? Okay, so now we're going to just go over some of them that are like formatted a little differently that might confuse you or that you have to like clean up before you start the problem, like ones on the homework that might like be a little bit strange, okay? The first one is some of them are going to have this double negative. So, like this. What you want to do on these ones is you're just going to go in and just simplify that. Yeah.
I'm confused. Oh, but how do you have so much?
Oh, my paper's aside.
So wait, is the line just moving away from
No, like I was just trying to separate, like these are like the main ones and these are just like the weird examples, like the extras. All right, so what you want to do is you want to simplify this stuff that's going on here. What is subtracting a negative the same thing as? Do you remember? Adding, yep. So we're going to take this double negative and just change it to addition. So you're going to rewrite that as x plus 2 equals 11. So that's not solving, that's not doing the problem yet. That's basically just going in and just cleaning it up so that it like looks the way it's supposed to before we solve it, okay? So anytime you have like a double negative like that, just change it to addition. Good so far? Yes? Okay, so now what am I going to do to get the x by itself?
Subtract 2, you said.
Yep, subtract 2. So what does x equal? 9. Yep. Okay, so that's one of them. That might be a little bit weird. And then the other ones are whenever you have it out of order. So if we have like negative 6 plus y equals 5. So remember, ultimately our goal is to get that variable by itself. So meaning if there's something with addition or subtraction happening, that needs to go to 0. So what am I going to do with that negative 6 to make it disappear? Turn to a positive, yep. So meaning, keep going with that. Use like an operation word. Like what am I going to do to this? So what am I going to do to a negative 6 to make it turn 0? So if it's negative 6, if I subtract, it's going to go more negative, right? So what would I have to do to bring it back to 0? Add 6, yep. Negative 6 plus 6 is going to be 0. Guys, let's be positive, please. We want good energy in here. All right, so what would y equal? 11, yep. The reason why we're adding 6 also is because negative 6 plus y is the exact same thing as y minus 6. Okay, so it's technically subtraction. All right, and then on the other side, if that 6 is positive, so if I had 6 plus y equals 5. That's the same thing as y plus 6, right? So what would I do to get it to be 0? Yep, subtract 6. So y would equal what? Negative 1. Yep. Beyond that, the only other thing that you'll run into is sometimes the variable is going to be on the right side instead of the left side, which is fine. Just kind of reverse it, or you could rewrite it and swap the sides if you want to before you start. But like y equals 11 and 11 equals y are the same thing, okay? So you don't have to worry about what side you're working on. If you're moving stuff from the right side over to the left, that's fine. You're just basically trying to get rid of whatever's on the same side as the variable, okay? All right. Yeah. So let's do like if you had 12 equals p minus 7. So we're not wanting to subtract the 12, right, even though it's on the left side, because our goal is to get the p by itself. So whatever's on the same side as the p is what you want to work with. So how am I going to move that over? Yep, plus 7. So then what's 12 plus 7? 19, yep. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, otherwise, I think that's it. So we're just going to combine the 2 days together and just do the homework today, and then we'll be back on the same schedule, just because it's so short. Yeah. Yes, but for right now it's fine. The only time it really makes a difference is once we get into the ones that are inequalities, and then we can just worry about it then if you want. Okay. Yeah. So your homework is that other paper that I passed out. Now, phones should not be out and being used, okay? It's really important that we get into the habit, some of us more than others, of not immediately looking this up on our phones. We have to do it by ourselves, okay? So if it gets to the point where I need to collect your phones, I will, but I really don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to manage that. That's just insane. So just, like, please just do it yourself. Monitor yourself, okay? Yeah, so that's your only to-do is just that worksheet, and then you're good. Uh-huh.